Hey, everybody out there, welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And we've got a big show here planned for you today. Going to be welcome. First of all, we got a Buckeye kickoff tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Going to be taking place on the Peacock. Ohio State traveling up to East Lansing to take on the Michigan State Spartans. Rather, we've got a number of other big games. Tonight, you got Virginia Tech at Miami. Talk a little bit about that. Oklahoma State, Kansas State tomorrow, Wisconsin, USC tomorrow. The 3:30 window prior to the Ohio State game, you have Louisville, Notre Dame on the Peacock as well. So a little back-to-back are there streaming. And then in the evening, we got a nice slate. Stanford, who just upset Syracuse, will be traveling to Clemson. That's going to be on ESPN. We're going to have Georgia taking on Alabama at 7:30. That's in Tuscaloosa. That is going to be on ABC. On NBC, the Big Ten featured game is going to be Illinois and Penn State, two ranked teams as well. And then, of course, we're going to have Ohio State and Michigan State that'll be there as well with you. So that's going to be a great, hopefully not that great of a game. Start fast for the Buckeyes, wrap that thing up. So I can have one eye on that thing as I'm watching a quad box and some other scenarios going on to my right. So really excited about everything that's going to be going on tomorrow. Big slate of football. Going to be here for you. And then as well, if you're into the late night stuff, the Pac-12, formerly known as the Pac-12, After Dark, a classic Big Ten matchup between Oregon and UCLA. That will be taking place. Check the time, 11 p.m. Saturday night on Fox. So we've got ourselves a big day. We've got a big show for you. We've got a Thoughtful Thursday coming up later that's going to be involving my man, Tim Walton, as he drops that out every Thursday to his defensive backs after practice. The guys love it. So I want to share a little bit of that with you, give you a window inside. We've been doing it the last couple of weeks, so we'll do that again. We're going to have our headlines. They're going to be brought to you as well. We're going to have our Dudes of the Week. And we'll remember, a dude isn't a gender. A dude is a lifestyle. So that'll be at the very end of the program. Coming up in our next segment, 2, maybe even 3. We'll see what he's got time for. My guy, Ben Hartsock, remember the 2002 National Championship team, played a decade in the NFL. You can hear him on Sirius XM on the Big Ten Network and on College Sports Channel 84. So both of those, former teammate of mine, now residing in Atlanta, Georgia. He's going to join the program to talk with us a little bit about these matchups we're going to see. And you may be asking yourself, Bobby, you're here by yourself today. Where's that other guy? Where's that wild animal, that wild beast? Well, folks, I want to let you know Schlegel spends half of his time in Columbus, the other half in Jacksonville, Florida. If you weren't aware, there was a hurricane that came through the northern-ish part of Florida. I think most of southern Florida was fine. So they have been without power. So my man Schlegel, I texted him, I called him, no response. Finally got a call back from his lovely wife, Stephanie. She was there and more than willing to oblige me and say, hey, Bob, we've been working, we've been grinding. We're doing the very best we can to try to make sure that we can get some power on and get you guys rolling. They do not have their generators going right now, so they are without power, unfortunately, which kind of stinks for them. So Schlegel, with no power comes no internet. So he's just barely able to get the phone going. We'll see if we can get him joining a little bit later. That will be the goal because it's a big day for my man Schlegel today. When you look at what he's been a part of and what he's done. And check that. We're going to put a timeout in. Before I get to that, I want to wish a huge congratulations. We're going to keep it all in the linebacker world here. A huge congratulations to the linebacker coach at Ohio State, former teammate of mine, member of Ohio State from 2005 to 2009, played 8 years in the NFL, all-time leading tackler for the Los Angeles St. Louis Rams when he played for them. James 𝗟𝗓𝗓. Him and his wife, Shelly, have 3 girls, and they just welcomed in their 4th child, I believe, on Wednesday. Scheduled that there, so James not missing any time. He was at practice yesterday, talked to him, congratulated him. Him and his wife, Shelly, are both doing well. And his baby boy, son, well, it's a classic name. It's a name from the movies. It's one of my favorite characters in cinematic history, Maverick Laurinaitis. How about that? So sounds like a winner to me. So excited for James. I know he'll be excited to coach this weekend. Head up there. His wife, Shelly, said, get out of the hospital. Go up there. Coach the Buckeyes. Don't worry about me. 1 iota. We'll be good to go. So pretty excited about that. Now, back to the lecture at hand. My man Schlegel, when he got done playing, got into some coaching, finally made his way to Ohio State. In 2011, he was a strength coach at Ohio State, survived that season, was on with Urban, was there for another 3 years. And he was a strength coach on the sideline. He was a get-back coach. He was also the special teams substitution, essentially get everybody ready coach, which under Urban Meyer is an unforgiving and relentless task. Anything that happens on special teams always got dumped back to Schlegel. He also had to keep the players back, keep everybody off the field. Even though Urban was the primary culprit himself, generally on the field, he always wanted to keep the players back so you're not getting sideline warnings. So that was another responsibility of his on game day. And he was also kind of the enforcer. Now, this was 10 years ago, so I'm 41. Schlegel was 43. He would have been 33 at the time, a little bit younger and a little bit more spry. But to all evildoers beware. When Gotham needs a hero, not all heroes wear capes. And sometimes Gotham, well, that's Columbus, Ohio. And a fan chose to run on the field 10 years ago. And our guy, Anthony Schlegel, like any fine American in 2014, arose to the occasion. He rose to the challenge and was able to get that done. So, oh, look at that. Slam City by my man Schlegel. Being able to get that done in a big, big way. Pretty fantastic to see. Looking really good. Look at him. Let's break down. Look at this. Form tackle. Run the hips. I don't like the hip toss at the end, but whatever you got to do to get him down, that's a big deal. And nobody was going to be on the sidelines anymore. And Schlegel, I mean, I know he'll recount the story. He'll tell it for you later and be able to show it to you with everything that's going on. But I just want to try to give you a little nugget of what happened. So he's standing there by Mickey Marotti. And since he's standing there, he sees the guy come out. Schlegel looks over. He's like a dog when you just put some chow in front of him. Pavlov's dog slobbering. He's drooling. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And he looks over at Mick. Mick looks back at him, gives him the head nod. The head nod was all Schlegel needed to be able to go out there. And you see him right there. He skinnies him up, hits him, drives him, stays low, tosses him. Now, after that, everybody wanted Schlegel to go on all these different shows. Today's show, I don't know about the night, evening shows, but he was a hero that everybody needed. They wanted to see in college football, and everybody loved him. So he was able to go out. He did that. He turned down all the interviews. Didn't want to get in trouble. They said they were worried. Ohio State was like a little worried about the legality of it. Like the guy ran on the field. He could have been doing anything. Like in an era when stuff is going on, you have no clue who that guy could be, what they could be a part of. Now, granted, it was just a drunken senior at Ohio State, and that's all good. And so you make sure that he's going to be okay, and he was fine. So he slammed him hard. I'm like, the guy ran on the field. You got to get him to the ground. Get him to the Greek. When you go on the field, you are waiving all rights as a private citizen. You are going out there. No one knows your intentions, and their job is to get you down. Schlegel's got him down in a respectful way, took care of business in a pretty professional and expedited manner, got him to the sideline. The kid was fine. And I think Schlegel's actually even went to bat for him. They were talking about kicking this kid out of school. He's a senior. I forget. He was like an engineering major. I mean, he was a good student. Just got a little hopped up in the morning, feeling a little liquid courage, decided to run out there probably on a bet or a dare. And so it's like, you don't want to see that kid get kicked out of school. So they made sure, hey, stayed in school. I think he was fine. I think him and Schlegel are good now. But the best part about that is people have seen that a bunch. And I don't know, Pat, if we can get to this. The picture, there's a local bar restaurant, home field. Now, when you would talk about defending home turf, you're talking about my guy, Anthony Schlegel, right over to this side. And you can see him right there. That is it. That is his signature. Rocking that, it's got the message above, no trespassing, looking good. Check out home field. It's right there on Grandview Avenue. It's fantastic. The pizza there is really good. Schlegel and I went over there. We had a garage beer. We were hanging out with my friend Brad. He wanted to do this, said, get the approval. Bam, looked good. You know why Schlegel's got this done? Because he's blue collar and corn fed. He was born in Iowa, but grew up in Texas. And so that's the whole story of everything that ultimately went down. I wish my man was here to help you with it. He is sheltering in place currently, doing the very best he can. to make sure that his family is okay. They're trying to get their generators going to make sure that they're going to be ready to go and he can hopefully get back on. But he's got 3 kids down there, a wife, who knows how much water is going on. So I know he's caffeinating, dominating, and ready to rock. All right. We got Ben Hartsock coming up next. But first, I want to tell you about this. As we do every single day. Parents, athletes, you need to protect what matters most. And that's export mouth guards. Listen, they're going to protect both your grill and your brain the best they can. Designed by NHL dentists, used by professional athletes. They're scientifically proven to help high impact hits and protecting your brain and mouth. Like I said, they feature 3 layers of protection, including patent use of carbon fiber. They 3D print these things to your grill for a custom fit, better protection, better performance, max comfort, clear communication. Schlegel usually pops his in right now and can talk right with it. So you can focus on your game, not on the gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Export mouth guards. Go to exportguards.com today /Bobby and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters. Up next, former teammate of mine, Mr. Ben Hartsock, here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And like I said, Schlegel is still not here, but I am welcomed in by one of my former teammates, national champion on the 2002 national championship team, 10-year NFL vet, now working on Sirius XM, both on the Big Ten Network and on the College Sports Network, doing a great job. Also a lover of all things NIL and transfer portal. And our guy, Anthony Schlegel, who, before we get to any of the other stuff, so Schlegel, for the people that don't know, transferred in from Air Force. This wasn't like a free reign smorgasbord, do what you want in the portal. You actually had to sit out a year, Ben. And so when you sat out a year, you're on scout team. What do you do on scout team? You go play the offense. And I know that you loved playing against my guy, Mr. Rockhead Schlegel, in 2003 every day in practice.
Well, yeah, and in an era where transfers weren't nearly as prevalent, I always remember people, hey, pre-transfer portal, guys weren't like chained in a locker beneath the stadium. You could always transfer. It's just the transfer portal basically made it socially acceptable, made it like Tinder for football players that you could swipe right on any team or player that you want. And Schlegel was that guy. And what the memories I have of Schlegel early in his time at Ohio State was that he just went to work. In a world where we're all trying to, he came in very much midstream. We had all this time with each other. He came in and started paying his dues. He wasn't a guy that came in and tried to call shots and tried to jump in the front of line or try to pound his chest to prove his value. No, he just put the time in, did what he always did, which was be a great teammate, put the work in. He put work in as a scout team guy the year that he was waiting to earn his eligibility, and then goes on to become one of those famous trio that you were a part of with him and AJ.
What do you think the conversation would have been like between him and Mark D'Antonio if, like, halfway through the season he would have went up and been like, Coach, I know that I'm here. You guys promised me some things. I don't feel like you're living up to this. I'm going to sit out the rest of the season, preserve this year so I can go play somewhere else.
Yeah. Shot straight into outer space. Just right into orbit. It's so funny. And you know what's wild is on College Sports Radio earlier this week, we had Joshua Perry on. And so much of what's happening in college sports, I'm done giving kids passes. Don't tell me this is kids and the adults did this. No, you're not kids anymore. You're pros. And so this kid from UNLV, he made a bad deal. Is that unfortunate? Yeah. If the reports are true, like let's say worst case scenario, UNLV made promises that they're not honoring. I would say, well, still you need to honor the commitment you made to your teammates. UNLV is in the middle of an early Cinderella run. They might be a college football playoff team. For him to walk out on his teammates, I find completely disrespectful to the other 100 guys on that roster. You can handle I'm not saying don't go to or don't expect to be paid, but take care of it after the season. It's just so off-putting. You're exactly right. D'Antonio wouldn't have stood for it. Joshua Perry, when I asked him, because he was kind of justifying, saying, yeah, we know what professional life is like. We all played in the NFL. You know all this stuff. And I said, Joshua, you were a team captain at Ohio State. If you would have walked into the Woody Hayes athletic facility and said, boys, some business got to get taken care of, I'm out. You would have never. Well, yeah, of course. He says, yeah, I wouldn't have done it. And that's part of why we're here is everybody will say, yeah, we don't really like what's happening. Yeah, we really don't think this is right. But no, but you have to uphold the standard. The standard that you upheld for the young guys after you came was the same standard that we upheld by guys like Luke Fickell and Mike Vrabel that were set. If we continue to dilute that standard of what is acceptable behavior in a locker room, you get to the point now where we have guys opting out of their teams mid-season.
Let me ask you this about that. And we're going to get into games, but we're going to get a lot of like real football talk, which is, I know, what you would like to do. But with that, I said I would have never done that at Ohio State. And Jacob Hester, I was on with him and EJ Manuel. We're going back and forth about this. And Jacob's like, I know it would be a dumb decision, but I would go play. He's like, Joey Hester, my dad, would make sure that I played out there. And EJ was, it's like my dad would have leaned in. He's like, I get it. But I go, and here's the thing. Like I told all three of us, including yourself, we went to a school, and like especially you, myself, and Hester, that was locally there for you. It's in the region you grew up in. It was Big State U. Whether you had a big tie to him or not, once you get there, like you're ingratiated with everything. How much do you think the portal, like Sluka's only there for 6 months. It wasn't like he had been there for years. Like he had left Holy Cross where he had been for 4 years. And so like it's hard to have any type of standard when it becomes so transient, I feel like, in college football, where there isn't that consistent piece that was always there. It's
transactional. Yeah, it's transactional. This kid, Sluka, has no connection to UNLV. He was there for his $100,000, if you believe what he says. And ultimately, UNLV, if they did a dishonorable deal, if they're not honoring their commitments, their consequence will be next time they try to sign a kid, they're going to be like, no, if like that will those consequences will run its course. But the whole transient nature, I recognize my generational differences. I recognize that. I'm the old guy in the room, and that's fine. That John Jansen, our buddy from Michigan, right? Yep. Michigan All-American. I asked him early during the Harbaugh flirting with the NFL era, like 2 seasons ago, his first overture to go take, I think it was the Vikings job 2 seasons ago. When he didn't get that job, and he went back and steps into that team meeting room and says, all right, boys, let's go chase a championship and let's go into spring practice. And I'm with you it made my head spin. And I asked Jansen, I said, John, make this make sense, because how could he possibly walk back into that locker room, into that meeting room with any credibility that I'm your unquestioned, undefined leader? And John, a guy from our era as well, he said, Ben, you're never going to get it. I'm never going to get it. We are dinosaurs. But he helped me understand. He said, this generation of athletes have grown up in the travel ball world, in the AAU circuit, in the 7-on-7 circuit. Those teams in youth sports all the way through. And a lot of these kids in high school, just like Dylan Raiola, play for a bunch of different high schools each and every year. It's different than you growing up at Lancaster, or you and me growing up at Unionota High School, where you go there from kindergarten all the way through graduation. These kids are all moving from place to place to place. So you get here's what's happened at a lot of locker rooms across college football right now is you sit down in your locker and you're like, okay, that guy's my locker mate this year. All right, this guy's that. But next year to year, week to week, season to season, they're accustomed to transients. They are accustomed to transactions because they've done it all the way through their 7-on-7 and high school experiences. It's never going to understand. It makes sense to me and dinosaurs like me, but it doesn't make it right. Just because you can doesn't mean it's right. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I get a lot of people that just kind of shrug their shoulders saying, yeah, we don't think it's right, but they can get away with it, so they do it. And that's just not the right way to operate by mine.
Yeah, and it's tough because I guess my views change a little bit. And I think what you're saying is true. You become jaded by professional athletics and professional sports.
Yeah.
And so after going through that and seeing, like you said, the transactional and transient nature, like you go through your first training camp, like, all right, here's 90 guys. We're going to go play and win some games. And then you just watch guys get like, hey, where'd such and such go? Like, oh, like they got rid of him. We brought in this other running back. They wanted to get a look, and this and that. And then one day, all of a sudden, you come in and you're like, this locker room that was so full is down to like 60 guys, and you hacked off a third of your roster. So I have a hard time removing that element from my psyche, Ben, when I evaluate things and look through it, because understanding like that, those experiences kind of shaped me. Could I have done that at Ohio State? Absolutely not. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way. And there is strong cultures, but I think it's some of these places you get this stuff that's going on. I mean, you're telling me that when you were at Union Nota that 𝗟𝗓𝗘𝗓 never came calling and tried to lure you over there?
Well, they did. My close high school friend to this day, because when I was getting recruited at Ohio State, there hasn't been another Ohio State recruit at Union Nota since me. There wasn't one before me. There wasn't one since. I've got a Woody Hayes football from the 60s here in my office.
Like, how many people did you graduate with? Tell the folks.
120, 115.
Pretty small school.
Small school. And I wanted to go to Ohio State. Before I got the scholarship offer, I chased around Andy Geiger trying to get a scholarship. I went to where John Cooper was speaking. And during that process, the 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓 high school coach at the time has said, hey, I've got some contacts up at Ohio State. Come over. I want to talk to you about those. Yeah. And so of course I said, well, who do you know? Yeah. And as soon as I got there, he said, let me show you the weight room here at 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓. Let me show you the practice field. Let me show you the locker room. And dude, it was a recruiting visit. And I remember I'm 17 years old. I'm like, I don't know, but I realized real quick, you're trying to get me to come here. My friends got wind of that, and they said, had you left us, you're dead to us. We wouldn't be friends 25 years later. You would be absolutely dead to us. So it's this whole world of trying to poach is nothing new, but it doesn't make it right.
I mean, was that like a wonderful life moment? Like when Jimmy Stewart's going in, you're shaking the hand, like, no, you put the cigar, you're throwing the cigar out of your mouth. Yeah. You want to get out of there.
Yeah. Well, you said though about the NFL experience, it was an NFL coach that said like, they're not teams. They're into 53 independent contractors. Yeah. An NFL team is 53 independent contractors. And what's harder for what Coach Day is trying to do, and you're right, Coach Day has tremendous culture. You talk about, you and I grew up Buckeye fans, like it's part of our DNA. But think about guys like 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 fell in love with the program, fell in love with the state, made it his home, and now he's coaching the team. Like that is a common story with places like Ohio State that have that tremendous culture. It's just getting more difficult because the distractions and the attractiveness of the glitz, the glamour, the money, all of the trimmings. I recognize the utility of all that. It's just harder. And ultimately, like, look at the NFL, 53 independent contractors, but at least with NFL teams, you've got a core of guys that are there for 5, 8, 10, 15 years. So those guys over time, maybe they do get that brotherhood, that connection that we get. It's just guys like me that constantly lived in that churn of that bottom 5-10% of the rosters constantly getting moved. But in college, you don't have time to develop a core of 8, 10, 12-year guys that get to know each other. You've got 4 years if you're in college. So that's even more challenging for the current college landscape.
All right. That's some great stuff with Ben. We're going to actually talk about some real football games and some real culture here. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Bama. There's a ton of huge games this weekend. We'll get into all those with Ben Hartsock here after the break on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Authentic takes them around the far turn. Tis the Laws making his move now, and they're into the stretch. These two stride for stride. Authentic, tis the Law. Here's the wire. Authentic has won the Kentucky Derby.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Back now, my guy, Mr. Ben Hartsock, giving us great little diatribe. And I was curious, Ben, because you always went to UNO, that if 𝗟𝗓𝗩𝗘, which was a bigger Division I school, put a lot of guys in college football, big time programs, if they ever recruited you. So I'm glad I finally got that story out of you there. You mentioned Ohio State, and we'll start with them. Ohio State and Michigan State have battled a lot over the last 15 years. You could argue that over periods, that was the biggest rival for Ohio State in the Big Ten, especially when Mark D'Antonio was there with his ties to Columbus, being from Zanesville. A lot of Ohio kids on that roster. Kind of fallen off a little bit in recent years. I think Jonathan Smith is a heck of a coach. Aiden Childs, their running back, very, very talented. What do you kind of see in this game up there? Buckeyes are like 3 touchdown plus favorites. Does it feel like it could be closer than that to you?
Yeah, I mean, the Buckeyes played with their food a little bit in that first half versus Marshall. Yeah, and here's my bigger picture stance, and Michigan State fits in this. We are seeing this year's college football, the blurring of the line between Group of Five and bottom half Power Four programs. That's why you see working class programs losing to Group of Five programs. You've seen Vandy go down. You've seen Mississippi State go down. You've seen Kansas go down. You've seen Florida State go down to Group of Five programs. And I think Michigan State, unfortunately, we know they're right now, they're a bottom half program in the Big Ten. So I don't expect this to be much of a measuring stick for Ohio State. Comparing to like Illinois traveling to Happing Valley, that's a real measuring stick to see where they fit. So I look at what Michigan State is. Aiden Childs at the quarterback position, optimism. I love Jonathan Smith, how he's coming in, going back to that Mark D'Antonio approach of program building, find lumps of coal, and over 3-4 years turn them into diamonds. Mel Tucker tried he wanted to go big game hunting. He wanted NIL hunting. He tried to the microwave approach. It worked for a year. It worked for 1 year, but and guess what? It worked for Florida State for a year too. Yeah. And now they're falling back down to this whole wholesale transfer portal approach. I think we're learning. That's why giant free agency is not a winning strategy in the NFL, and giant transfer portal churn is not a winning strategy in college. So I look at this game, and I think Ohio State is another thing about the blurring between Group of Five versus Power Four is I think we are getting a tighter pattern of the true front runners. Yeah. The true fronters in college football, I think, are running at a pace we've never seen, even in recent history. The Georgias, the Ohio States, the Texases, and I think Penn State is on the cusp of being in that conversation. Tennessee in that conversation. They are running. While I see more upsets of in a bottom half Group of Five teams over Power Four teams, I think we'll see fewer upsets of the true top of the mark in college football, and Ohio State firmly fits there.
And so with that, Illinois, you mentioned heading to Penn State, Happy Valley. Penn State, I think, has looked really good now. Looked a little rough against Bowling Green, and then all of a sudden BG plays A&M really tough. I think BG might be one of the best teams in the MAC this year. Mm-hmm. Drew Aller, They seem to have their receivers going. They've been able to push the ball down the field. That defense looks pretty solid. The running game's coming together. I mean, is this Penn State team for real? And how much will we find out about them should they handle Illinois?
Yeah, this season with Penn State, you have Drew Aller in his second year. He's more comfortable. I'm excited to see him take that second step. But I also think a big part of Drew Aller's success is Andy Koltnicki, the offensive coordinator that came from Kansas. And think about what Kansas is in a free fall right now without Koltnicki. Jalen Daniels looking far less impressive as a player without Koltnicki. So I think Koltnicki looking better leaving Kansas and also looking really good at Penn State. And for Penn State, they've got so many options. Offensively, Aller can throw the ball, and they're throwing the ball. I think they've already got a dozen or more plays over 20 yards. So their explosives are bigger. And defensively, the only real tipping point in this game is if Illinois can get turnovers. Right now, they're third in the country in turnover margin, +7. That's their only saving grace to keep it close, is if they can force turnovers for Penn State. Is everybody seeing Schlegel? Because I'm seeing Schlegel. Let's go, Schlegel. Let's go. Where's
popped
the
in?
juice?
We had a hurricane yesterday, so they're coming through, and we've been out of power, or we haven't been able to talk to anybody, and literally all of our generators going. I've been sitting here just frantically trying to rig up internet, and it's like, Schlegel, what are you doing? Nobody has internet. It doesn't matter if you can rig it. I can rig it. No, then all of a sudden, poof, David Copperfield, my youngest, is like, dude, the power's on, Dad. I'm like, well, this is great.
Schlegel,
Here we go.
You had a Smith machine that you hooked up to your generator, and you would just do squats to generate power for the house.
No, I figured Schlegel was on a John boat out in the flooded streets of Florida, rescuing people from rooftops or hunting gators. I'm seeing gators.
Can you guys hear me okay? Because I probably am going in and out. I don't know.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
It's
Ben, it's good to talk to you, Ben.
Man, good to see you, Schlegel. Always good to see you, dude.
Talk a little bit. We got Georgia, Alabama. Schlegel, you're in the middle of that weather now. This game's going to be played in Tuscaloosa. I think that they should be okay. I have to look at the weather, whether there's going to be a lot of rain. But that's kind of the premier game of the night. Ben, what do you kind of see in there with that Georgia-Bama game?
First time that Alabama's been an underdog at home since the iPhone has been invented. Like George Bush, GW was in office the last time that Bama was a home underdog. Like, let's properly set that context. I look at this game, and one of the most rudimentary ways to evaluate a game is I just measure position groups. Which quarterback would I take? Which wide receivers would I take? Which D-line would I take? And to the position, I would take Georgia's position group, every one of them. I can't pick up. And ultimately, the biggest differentiator for me, Jalen Milroe has had a great season, doesn't even have a pick on the year. He is an absolute lightning rod, deserves to be a Heisman candidate. But his body of work, I have seen Jalen Milroe get benched because he just went on tilt last season early in his first year as a starter. He's grown, he's developed, but Carson Beck has looked like Mr. Brooks. He looks like the kind of guy that is Carson Beck might be a hitman on the side just for the fun of it. Because you remember in that movie, Mr. Brooks, like he was an upstanding member of society, but he also had this side hustle. Yeah. Carson Beck has those dead eyes that no matter what circumstance, he's going to be there and he's going to get the job done. That's the same kind of guy that chokes somebody out as a hitman.
Can they run the ball? Like we saw versus Kentucky. Was Kentucky basically showing the keys for success versus Georgia? Now, again, it's on the road. It's the same premise, right? Kirby said it's hard to win on the road. Now you're a road favorite at Alabama. Are they going to be able to do it? Because to open up their passing game, you got to be able to run the football.
I look at Kentucky last week. Georgia has been held to under 20 points 3 times over the Kirby Smart era, and they were all to Kentucky. Like There's just certain teams that, every time that Georgia has been held under 20 points on the road, it's been at Kentucky. Mark Stoops, it's that kryptonite. Every team. It was Wisconsin when we were in school, guys. You remember early, maybe even before you guys got to campus, like, man, we struggled against Wisconsin. And it always seemed like We played like 5 straight years, it seemed like, in Camp Randall. So I just know that feeling of certain teams that you should be able to beat comfortably sometimes give you fits.
I'll never forget the speech that C gave us before 02 when we went up there and won. And Thursday night, captain's talking about winning and then dancing on the W after the game. And I was kind of amazed, like, okay, we're just going to go all in, because they had done that the year before, I think, when they had won down here in Columbus.
Yeah. That's so I look at Georgia, and to counterpoint Georgia, I think they'll win. I think they cover. I think these are 2 incredible teams. These are absolute playoff teams. These are title contenders, both of them. Georgia is the more complete team. But ultimately that quarterback position is a part of it. And they have good players, not great players. Yeah. Like, they have been on an absolute tear. Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, like, those are generational type of players. The run they've had on the defensive side, their depth is second to none this year. I don't know that they've got top 10 picks. They may just have 2nd and 3rd round picks this season.
So one other game that's huge during the 3:30 and about the last minute here, Ben, Louisville going to Notre Dame.
Ooh, big one.
I feel like it's kind of a must win for Notre Dame. If this will have to be kind of their signature win, maybe USC at the end of the year. We'll see how they finish. How bad do they need this? And do the Irish ultimately get it? And do they get it with style?
Yeah, and Notre Dame, this is an elimination game for Notre Dame. Every other team in college football is going to get 3 losses and still have an argument. Notre Dame is going to struggle with 2 because one of their 2 is to an NIU team that it was unacceptable. So the lack of strength of their schedule, and this is my projection, you have to, because Notre Dame's not in a conference, they always get 1 less mulligan. When at last in the 4 team, you could get 2 losses. Notre Dame could only go 1. Notre Dame this year can only lose 2. And if it's this one, I think this iteration losing to NIU, it's an elimination game.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thank you for joining us today, man. We got our guy Schlegel in. I appreciate you taking some time. That was fantastic. Love to have you back on sometime in the future. Stay safe. Try to stay dry. And enjoy the weekend of college football. And I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Channel 84.
All gas, no brakes. Let's go.
All right, that was Ben Hartsock, our friend, our former teammate. Hear him on SiriusXM all across the network, whether it's the Big Ten channel, whether it's on the College Sports channel. Both of those does a great job. We'll be on Saturday morning from 9 to noon, ready to rock and roll. All right, Schlegel is back. He's here. He's ready to go. We got our headlines coming up next, so stay locked in on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Well, how do they know I'm doing this? Did somebody leak this out?
It's social media.
Oh.
It's just, that's the way social media works now.
I thought maybe you were just running that yap.
Welcome to Big Play, a sports media team that started back in 2014, and now we're not in a garage. Look at us, incorporating some of Cleveland's favorite sports personalities, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland. Coming to you live from the shores of Lake Erie and Burke Lakefront Airport, join Team Big Play for all the best sports talk in Ohio. Check us out on social media at Big Play, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, as always, our headlines are brought to you by our friends over at Affinity Whole Health. They offer personalized treatment plans to help you feel better, whether you're struggling with a litany of things, weight loss, muscle loss, poor sleep. They can help you with all of that. Affinity Whole Health, they provide expert guidance to help you safely reach those health goals. We've got Ohio covered. Since they're in Cleveland, they're in Columbus, they're out in Indy, they're up in Chicago. They're all over the place. Set up your free consultation, affinitywholehealth.com. affinitywholehealth.com. Schlegel, it's great to have you back. We're happy that you're here. Is everything safe and good before we get moving on?
Yeah, we're fine. We were just dealing with a bunch of stuff last night. It was a long night, but then literally frantically just trying to get stuff, not able to call out. to say, hey, Bob, I can't do the show because we have nothing. Like nothing's going out. So, but in the meantime, you're always set up for contingency plans, and you're trying to work the game, right, to get back in the game. So, but hey, guess what? Power's back on. Appreciate those guys. Ron DeSantis, I saw a picture like when your phone blows up, there was like 1 billion power line workers like ready to go. They've been working. So here we are.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one of our headlines here, people have talked a lot about the sack production for Ohio State, maybe the lack of sack numbers. And, it's tough when teams only throw it a couple times or they get the ball out really quick. So Ryan Day, if we can throw this up, Pat, talked about the sack production, and don't be overly concerned about that, especially when you're playing a team that's either going to A, get the ball out really quick, or B, ultimately try to limit the pass attempts. And if they have a running quarterback, because when you have that running quarterback, if you worry too much about the sacks, you could be opening up lanes that could cause issues later.
Right now, just 1 sack this past weekend. It wasn't even out of the regular 4-man. It was out of the Rushman kind of special package.
I think what's important for everybody to understand, and that includes, JT and Jack and our guys, is, if an offense decides that they're not going to give up any sacks, they can run the ball every play, throw RPO, or get a ball out of their hand quickly. And so it isn't a game of stats. What you got to do is you got to stop the run. And if the quarterback, is in a situation where he's looking to run quarterback draw or quarterback power or those type of things, we got to stop the run first. The sacks will come. So, just to go out there and think you're just going to go sack the quarterback, if one of the things that the other, side of the ball decides is we're not just going to take a 5-step drop and hang on to the ball, then those opportunities aren't going to be there. You have to defend what the other team is trying to do. And so, that's just the bottom line. And, when you have talented pass rushers like that, you're going to get some different styles of play. And so we all just have to make sure that, we understand the goal is first is to stop the run. And then secondly, it's obviously, about disrupting the passing game. But there's different ways to disrupt the passing game. And to think that, we're just going to, guys are just going to drop back pass in a game like that, is going to happen. The ball came out quick. Quarterback did not hang on to it. So, there's a lot of things that come with that. And we could talk about this for hours, but I want to make sure that the number one.
I think Ryan, talk about it for hours. He hits on it there. Sacks, stopping the run is a big part of it. Making sure that you're getting pressure, that's another big part of it. Staying in your rush lanes, another huge part of it. Aiden Childs likes to run the football. They need to make sure that they can stop him. He's very athletic. He threw for over 360 against Maryland, had another big passing game over around 250 against Boston College. Want to make sure they ultimately keep him in the pocket and make sure he's not moving around. So squeeze it down. The sacks will come, Schlegs. We're up against it. We've got a thoughtful Thursday from our guy, Tim Walton. What was he saying to the defensive backs to get them ready and get them focused and locked in their final day of the work week? We'll find out next in Tailgate Talk here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby Carpenter. I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Affinity Whole Health, the leaders in the testosterone replacement industry. I've been on a testosterone replacement program for a few years right now, and I've got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer. Affinity Whole Health has allowed me to be the best version of myself, both mentally and physically. I loved how easy it was to get started. I booked my free consultation, met with my prescriber, checked my numbers, and Affinity Whole Health designed a program that was customized to fit my needs. So I'm telling you guys, if you have low energy, you want to get rid of that spare tire around the waist or take it to the next level in the bedroom, Affinity Whole Health is the place to get started. So don't wait any longer. 5 minutes of your time, book your free consultation. You're going to love the way you feel. Sykes back in here for Tailgate Talk. I don't know if you got a chance to hear our guy, Mr. Tim Walton, and what he had to say, but it was pretty tremendous and does a great job communicating with these guys, Pat. So when we get that ready, toss that up. His ability to communicate with the DBs, second to none. It's what makes him a great recruiter, what makes him a great coach. This was his parting message at the end of Thursday's practice to the guys that'll get them ready for the game this weekend.
Hope for Thursday. Trusting God. Trusting God.
Always.
I get a good revelation when I go speak to his son. His name is Jesus, the reason why every battle is won. Fear was sitting in my body. I never knew this before. A new spiritual encounter when he shows up at the door. I continue to give my life to you because I know there's much more. So when I'm in my spiritual fight, trying to battle the beast, I always look up to the heaven because you are my peace.
I like that.
He gets him going, man. Schlegel.
I love him. Yeah, Ephesians 6:10 through 20 is put on the whole armor of God, and there's a lot of different things in there that you lead on. And I just love the fact that coaches are understanding, the players are understanding, and they're talking about it, right? And it resonates with them because when you go out there, it's just you and your teammates and having a bigger purpose. And so he's talking about that. It resonates with the players. The best thing about Tim is that Tim is authentically Tim. OG is authentically OG. And guess what? That's why I believe in the Ohio State culture. I believe in what the coaches have been able to do. And I expect these guys to go out there and play fast, physical, and violent against Michigan State Saturday night at 7:30 on the Peacock.
Absolutely, Schlegel. And one more note, I'm going to throw it to you because, this is Tailgate Talk. I told the folks earlier, I don't know if you know this, the Laurinaitis welcomed in their 4th addition to their family, their little boy. And
yes,
in classic fashion, Maverick Laurinaitis will be joining us here. So fantastic. I know they're excited.
Awesome.
Him and Shelly are doing great. And want to remind you, listen, Tailgate Talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck, the #1 truck accessory brand in the entire United States with top selling upgrades for the ultimate tailgate party. We're going to get some folks on from Real Truck here coming up next week. Make sure we tell you how great their stuff is. They can turn your truck into a stinking camper, for heaven's sake, with all the back stuff they have in the back. They did it for my Jeep. So gear up this season with Real Truck and bring your truck to life like Schlegel and I did. Dude of the Week coming up next.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
Building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories and bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now, Schlegel, it's time for our Dude of the Week. Now, I'll go first. I think you have a former guy that's one of ours who's going to be honored. The guy who I want to honor this week, John Tortorella, former coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. As many people know, Johnny Gaudreau and his brother passed away, a week or so ago. They're at their sister's wedding. Their father was a longtime high school hockey coach. They live in Philadelphia. And for a father who lost both his sons, and hockey was a big part of their lives, probably a huge void. What does my guy Tortorella do? Family lives outside of Philly. Torts is the coach of the Phillies. Come on over, or for the Flyers rather, come on over, come to practice, hang out. Was giving him some tips. Him and Torts are talking. And the best part I hear about this, Schlegel, Torts goes, this isn't a one-time thing. He's going to be coming back. He needs that. He knows what he needs. Torts is an unbelievable dude. His son serves in our military, like one of the finest men you'll ever meet. A little bristly sometimes with the media, but an awesome dude. John Tortorella, my Dude of the Week. Schlegel, I know you guys are fired up.
Yeah, Mark Antonio. Mark Antonio was one of the reasons why I came to Ohio State. He played at South Carolina under my D coordinator, Richard Bell. Mark actually transferred from West Point to South Carolina, had a lot of similarities, loved his demeanor, along with why I came because of the guys like you and AJ, Simon Frazier. But, I mean, just think about what he did at Michigan State and prior to him arriving there. They had 6 bowl victories. He had 114 wins there. Big Ten champions in 2010, 2013, 2015. Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2010, 2013. 7 top 25 finishes, most in school history. Guy completely rechanged the identity of that program, that they should have a staple in the top 25. And there's somebody to be reckoned with. So Mark D'Antonio, great dude. Ohio guy, Zanesville, Ohio, and my dude of the week.
Absolutely. I like the Buckeyes 38-6 over Sparty. Stay locked in. We'll talk to you on Monday on the Bobby Carpenter Show.